Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SimSeniors. There's going to be a good race out there tonight because we are crossing through that magical point. It's coming up to the halfway point in the calendar, and with that we have some interesting championship battles to discuss. Of course, my name's Ben Sapsford, aka Sappytron. I will be taking you through the racing this evening. And before we get started, I wanted to thank everyone who's joining us. So all of the drivers, of course, and of course everyone who is joining us in the chat and watching us live as well. Or if you end up watching this on demand later on, happy to have you. Welcome on in. If you do like what we do, we also have the YouTube channel with more events and more streams that we put together alongside the Facebook page and the Discord server once you've gone through all of that if you want to get involved yourself. Now, let's talk about what we are doing today and who we are off to the track to see. First off, let's look to the championship, and Lindblom leads 110 points to Wolfslener in 93 and Hartnell with 88 points. Tied up with Danny Moffat, none other. Then we have the silver runners. We have Paul Hamby, proven himself to be quite a formidable opponent, as we have him in 89 points with Oskari Herme 84 and Ostrichars with 82, being displaced from the lead of the championship but still in reach of the podium. And then finally, moving on to the bronze cars, we have Aldhouse leading with 98 points, just 3 points ahead of Carl Thompson in the Nismo, and Hopkins, who is running the McLaren in 78 points trim. Of course, let us know who you are keeping an eye on out there tonight and who you want to see come out on top. But we are going trackside, folks. We are about to get things going in full. It is Imola tonight. So we have got quite the racing feast for you all out here. 21 corners and quite a thrill ride of a circuit. But let's see what's going on and let's see what these drivers are up to, as we are now trackside for quali, 15 minutes before a 60-minute race. Let's do it. We're jumping in with some of the racers and the few who are out there getting started. First off, Leonardus, first out, and going to be the one who is going for that first lap. A crucial initial run. Going to be setting the pace as the rest of the grid is going to follow suit. Let's see what he does in the McLaren. And what he's quite got on show. 5th in the championship right now. A good result here. Could slingshot him as far as the podium. Let's see, come through corner 21 now, starting the lap in full. Into the Tamburello chicane. Peel as much as you can to the right side, then throw it across. A little bit of the sausage curb, but well within the realms of reasonability to take. Now, pushing as hard as he can here, then into Villeneuve. Nicely done there. Little bit narrow, I gotta say. Quite narrow there from Leonardus. Into Tosa now. We're seeing a couple of drivers bowing out of their runs. Either that or some drivers have unfortunately made mistakes in their big push laps and haven't been able to make it work. But here we are through the arguably most notorious and challenging segment of the circuit, Agua Minerale. Easy to drop the rear and get a bit of a slide going if you're not careful. But nicely done here from Lenatus. Decent push. Final chicane, then down the hill a little bit before you head to the double left-hander of Ravazza. Run it down it now. And it's almost a straight shot to the finish once you got these two. Looking fresh, looking clean from the McLaren. I believe that's Hartnell behind. looking to make a lap of their own. Can we see what Leonardus does here? What's the time on the board? It's a 42.6, immediately displaced by Hartnell's 41.1. A few more cars now headed their way through. Marsh, 41.5. Holmberg is a 42 flat. We're seeing some of the deltas that are now going to start appearing. Liam Blom has got a 40.4 as we see Homer crossing up to the line of 44.3. Last few cars of this initial run are going to be making their way through. You've got Thompson second in the Bronze Championship. Much to be impressed by on this course. And the first initial runs now out of the way. Drivers are certainly showing what they're capable of. Thompson now in the Nismo. On up to the line. What's it going to be? With the number 774 over here. Looks like no such run. Last one was not a legal one. As more cars are going to be making their way through in quick time. Mark Hughes trying to push up a little bit and get a bit more time in their pocket, in their favour. As we see, Colin McNair's just gone up in a big way. They've jumped all the way up till P11. Can Hughes do some similar magic? Up into 19th. Solid run on that front, on that side. Ostrishars now as well. Third in silver. At the top, we've got a familiar few sights. And of course, revisit some of the other pro or / gold class drivers in a moment. But right now, Ostrishars caught up in a little bit of traffic as they're trying to get a bit of a wiggle on. Ooh. I meant that metaphorically, not literally. Apparently, second left to Rivalza. Yeah, took that personal. 29th currently. What can they book as we come across? No dice. Meanwhile, up to the top, Lienbaum looking to make a 40.3 even faster. You've got Frederick Gaimar behind them, a driver we've seen have immense pace over the course of this championship, but just can't bring the points home. Not to mention 13 points penalty to their name, which has severely dropped them in the standings. They could be tied for 6th right now, if not for those penalties. But Liam Blom, regardless, sort of red and almost chrome gold livery on that Nismo. Franco Minerali keeping it gripped up, a little bit of curb, but nothing too risky here. We see many other cars also trying their luck as they are coming up to the line. The Niesbech came across, no improvement. We've got a big swathe of cars about to cross over the start-finish line now. Lenatus is over a second up on their previous time. They are going to be pushing themselves up into 5th. A very impressive run from the silver class runner. But Lienblom is currently on their best time. Let's see what they can do as we come up to the start-finish. It's going to be a 40.05 second. 7 seconds. That is immense from the current championship leader. Is there going to be any response from the field? Gaimar coming up to the line now, 40.7. Looks to be improving on their own time. But unfortunate wall tap. Looks like the lap still counted though. 570. The lap was still counted, but despite the off-track excursion right up where the line was. Jorge Saloma. Silver now. Up into P17. Solid run. Where does that leave the silver runners? We've got quite a collection, and leading that pack is Oscari. Driver 5 points behind, and if not for penalties, would have been leading the silver championship. Can he see even more of an improvement potentially on the books? Currently teetering on the edge of a delta. He's teetering on that line. He could get that gap just a little bit more. It's necessary insurance from the likes of Holmberg, as Marsh has just come through into P8 and displaced the trio of silver class. Leonardo's heading in. Lindblom heading in. No improvement on their previous. Admit now in through Ravazza. May now coming up to the line. And through goes a 141.0. Impressive time if I've ever seen one. Oh, Colin McNair is league owner. And a driver with a chip on the shoulder here. Current time, though, could put them within the top 10. Some quality running. Looking like a nice run as we head up to the start-finish here. Can he keep that delta in his pocket? Yes, he can. And it's a .295. That's P8 overall and a P3 in class. Excellent stuff. Many other drivers got some points to prove here, but we've got the final 5 minutes of qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. And so far, things are looking strong. In the lead of gold is, of course, Lindblom, currently really pushing their limits out there right now. But in the P1 for silver, it's going to be Hermé. Certainly looking to take their position against the likes of Hamby, who is only down in P27 right now, and well below the rest of the class. I think they're struggling to hook it up here in quali trim. There might be some wider issues going on with that Lamborghini. We'll of course have to keep in tune with it and see exactly what's going on. But then you have the leader of bronze. It's going to go to Mark Hughes. In a twist of fate, one of those who is lowest down in the championship is going to be currently leading the group. Going to be followed by Jaime Goddard. And then Robert Homer and Carl Thompson. I don't believe we have Aldhouse in here this evening. Yes, I don't believe we have Aldhouse. Oh, looks like a bit of an off-track excursion for the Porsche here. Number 992 car having a bit of struggle as they went through the chicane and head down into Ravazza now. Are they going to try and set themselves up for yet another go? Or stay on their current car condition? Yes, they are. You know, Austria taking a little bit of a dicey line, and yep, that lap is going to be thoroughly invalid. Took a bit too much of the apex on that second half of the chicane. Many cars are returning to the course now, as we only have 2 minutes left. This is really the last chance that these racers will have to put some good times down, or at the very minimum, they're going to be deciding whether it's worth going out again versus being comfortable in the time they currently have. But now 2 minutes on the clock, and much more racing to be had after this. But final few runs from the roster here in qualifying. Richard Cook looking on an exceptional run. Looks to be breaking almost into a second gained. Richard Cook looking like a solid run here for them in the McLaren. Up to the line. Moe Chandon adorned number 182. 42.6 becomes a 41.6. They're going to sling themselves halfway through the grid. And now into a very comfortable territory. Is Edo going to do the same? 44 flat on the dot right now. It's going to be up into the 42s at least. Only enough for P30, but still a solid improvement. There is nothing to scoff at. Meanwhile, Hartnell coming up to the line. Could break themselves into the 40s here with a good run and really put some pressure on the likes of their classmates. So, P3 now, 40.8, only overtaken by Guillemot and Lynn Blom. Peter Wolfslener currently P2 in that Gold Class Championship. And looking for potential runs here as we see Lindblom is going to peel off. They are not going to be committing to any further runs. They are happy with that 40 flat. Is this going to mean any more? As we have now got anyone who's behind Wolfslener is not making it to the line. So this is as good as their final run, folks. As we have the final few seconds now ticking through. And there you go, that is time. So final runs, Johan Larsson out of nowhere is going to push it into a 40.5 and into that second spot. Brilliant run from them. Meanwhile, a few more cars on their way through. Richard Cook looking to get even more time. They weren't happy with just sling half the grid. They want to go even further. They're 2 tenths up, and that's going to be P12 for them. A quality run there. Nick Coolan is going to jump up a position, as well as Justin Cutler, who's just behind, into P14. Last few drivers now on this field and looking to gain time. You've got Dave Marsh, who is a couple of tenths up. Of course, that iconic shark nose Porsche. And then you've got the black and gold of Tony McKibben, as they are going to be trying to make some waves and get themselves moving up that Gold Class standings. Currently P10, but much to gain here if their current position is anything to go by. They're net P6, and as they come to the line, they're going to make that P4. Oh no, P5, sorry, that was a minor hiccup on my part. And then finally, we have Dave Marsh coming through. What a run of quali here, folks. As now is time to call it here. And your winners for qualifying, the ones to watch heading into the main session, of course. Lindblom takes pole position for Gold Class alongside Johan Larsson and Frederick Guillemot. Looking to the Silver Class, we have Oskari Hermit with a solid run. Very impressive. 41 flat, followed by Damian Reed and then Matthias Holmberg. All looking like they are bringing their A-game out here tonight. And then in a twist of fate for bronze, it is Mark Hughes, who has shown themselves to be quite a qualifying weapon alongside none other than Alex North and then Jaime Goddard in third for bronze. Interesting to see Paul Hamby so far down the quali standings. 42 flats was the best that they could muster, and a P25 overall is a little bit worrying when it comes to quali pace and what that means for their wider efforts. But in terms of the rest of this session, folks, one thing that I'm very much looking forward to is how these drivers are going to be bringing the heat, bringing their A game. But of course, we're going to take a short break while drivers get themselves set up. So goes without saying, but make sure that you are tuning in, that you are sat down, you're comfortable, and you're ready for the racing ahead. It's going to be a great one out there tonight. Got a 60-minute race, mandatory pit stop. We'll explain all that and more in just a minute. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience, as always, while we get everyone ready and set up for the race ahead. We have got ourselves 60 minutes out in Imola tonight. And what we have for ourselves is quite the racing endeavour. It's going to be an interesting one, because we have got about 20 turns all in all. If you count the mild curves of the start-finish straight, then you have got yourself 21 corners. And this is quite a challenge for our drivers to overcome and face. But they have proven themselves to be formidable on-track racers week in, week out, and tonight is no similar. We just had an amazing qualifying, and we're going to be seeing quite an interesting turnaround because some drivers aren't quite where they usually are expected to be in quali, and that's going to mean we have a race to the top for some. Because for championship leaders Lindblom, Hamby, and Aldhouse alike, they are going to be having to push as hard as they can because they want those points leads. They want those unique opportunities that can be afforded to them. But this is going to be where the racing happens. And let us know who you are keeping your eye on as we are about to go trackside. So remember, folks, 60 minutes on the clock. We have a mandatory pit stop here in SIMseniors, and that mandatory pit stop is enforced for at least fuel. You don't have to take tyres, but tyres are certainly a good option depending on how much you're fighting. I would certainly advise it, and especially around Imola. It's quite a notorious track for pushing, particularly I think the right side, because you do get a little bit of a wiggle on. But here we are. We are just on board right now with current championship leader in gold and pole position holder David Lindblom. 110 points on the board. And quite a formidable challenge for the rest of the field to overcome. Let's see what happens if we go trackside. And who is going to be dominant? Who's going to be crowned? As the field is going to be condensing shortly. If I was the front three, I'd just be looking to put on a clean couple of laps. We've seen it all too often, particularly Imola being as narrow as it is in some places and as frenetic as it is. It's all too common for people to push a bit too hard, to overstep the boundaries, and to get themselves in a little bit of trouble. And my advice to all the drivers, keep it safe, keep it clean. Don't do anything I wouldn't, and get yourselves around those first few laps. At least let the field stabilise, then you go for the moves. But now we're going to be dropping down to 60 Ks, making sure everyone can line up double file just before Rivazza. Once that green flag is dropped, once race control gives the call, then it is all lights a go and racing full steam ahead. So for the 5th time in the championship and here at Imola for SIMseniors Season 7. Got quite the race ahead, but the drivers are closing together. The track is hot, and we are about to get away. Let's see what they can do. Coming up to the line now. Race control, gonna call it any second. And there you go, there's the green light. It is go. It is race time here in Imola. Let's see what these drivers can do. They're going to give it 110% as we go through into the first corner, into the Tamburello chicane. Now, big fight for space here. You can see double wide. Lindblom going too narrow, barely keeping it within the sausage curves. There's going to be big contact a bit further down. You can see that is going to be one of the McLarens going off into the grass. McKibben barely able to make it through on all of that. We're seeing flags left, right, centre. Contact, big one. That's McNair getting involved, tapping on the rear of one of the Lamborghinis. Big issue, big problems happening at the bottom of this field. It has turned into a nightmare to where my telemetry system cannot keep up with the amount of accident flags that just got posted through. It really cannot keep up at all. I think I will switch that to gap mode. Hopefully get a little bit of strain off the system. But then meanwhile at the top, Lindblom is down in second following a blunder on corner one. And Johan Larsson has taken the lead of the race. Many more drivers are also looking to get some push and to get some space of their own with these crucial first few minutes. You can see there is just ducking and weaving, attempts at space, anything that they can get, as that is going to be, I believe, Mark Hughes going for a little bit of weave just to try and break some of the toe, maybe throw the opponents off a little bit. Things are rapidly getting dicey. Got McNair as well, currently sat P9, has had a bit of a gain, but not sure how their car is holding up. They were part of some of the collisions earlier on. Would not be remiss to see some of the bottom end of the field heading into the pit now. And oh, that's a big one! That nearly could have ended in disaster! As that is going to be McNair off track. That's going to be a quick collection between themselves and just about managing to get it through. Dave Marsh. And Marsh managed to keep it on the straight and narrow and retain P10, but for McNair, this has gone from bad to worse. Seriously frustrating stuff, and in all of this, Lindblom has taken the top spot once again. Larson is fighting alongside Hartnell, and the two of them are barely keeping it within the track. That's Hartnell with a little bit of an extension just to keep things running. They're going to tuck back into P3, but I don't think this fight is anywhere close to over. We've seen how hard these two are willing to push each other to the limit. Lindblom now, though, has got a second out on Larson already, now that they've been given some room. And that's the dangerous thing. We've seen this time and time again. You let him get some room, and he is going to take the whole yardstick. There is no opportunity to let him escape. Otherwise, you know what happens. Meanwhile, Cumberbatch and Saloma trading positions, heading into Rivatsa now. There's going to be a little bit of an inward peak from Saloma as they try to reassert a bit of a challenge. Hamby is up into P18 now from P25, remembering qualifying. But they have got a mission and a half on their hands, as a couple of other drivers are now looking to the pit lane. Gaimar's in the pits, or has already taken a stop in. Thompson is now in the pit lane, I believe reeling from some damage that they might have received just earlier on. Larson, or Patrick Larson, and Justin Cutler are going to be trading positions as well. Cutler being moved up into gold following their dominant performances last season. And refusing to take anything less than best. But looks like we have got a bit of a situation going on further down, as we have North Mansell, McNair, Homer, Goddard all involved in a bit of a 5-car scrap. You can see those are the incident signs just popping up on our timing tower. That's the indication that they've had some form of contact, and or they've gone off track as a result of another car. Big overextension there from Jaime. That's going to be easy pickings for the likes of Parkinson as well as Suri Goddard at all. Oh, looks like we've lost Patrick Larson though. They're just, you can see, waiting for the rest of the field to go. Let's take a bit of a replay and see exactly what happened there. Remember, on board Patrick Larson in the McLaren, purple. He's rewinding a bit back in time here, coming up to the chicane. And, oh, just dropping a bit too much on the inside curb. Points for parking. I gotta say, perfectly sliding it into the medical car alcove. Definitely points for style. And for keeping it out of trouble as well. That could have gone a lot worse. And while they have only managed to rejoin down the bottom end in P30, the car is unscathed, which is going to serve them well in the second half of this event. We see more chaos happening. I think that's Hermé and McKibben briefly coming into contact with one another. Of course, continue to monitor as time goes on. But right now, we look to the front. We can see in the foreground, that's Larson, Hartnell, Wolfslener, all trying to push best they can. But Lindblom has now broken away 3.5 seconds. As if predicted. Broken out of the battle and is now just using the time to get away. Allowing the rest of the field to fight and squabble. What gives those opportunities for the rest. Like we're seeing right now, Wolfslener and Hartnell being so close to each other's grill means that Larson has broken about 1.5 seconds of time. Some serious gaps there. And then we see a couple of other cars. We just check in around the fields and see what's going on. Can see a couple of position trades. Looks like heading into the first chicane. That's Ascari and Tony both swapping over into Tamburello. For Villeneuve, is there going to be any kind of counter from the Porsche? You can lean it a bit more into corners. The Ferrari has the rotation, but Tony with some good car control can have him on the exits. Going to be giving it as much as they can there. Almost a little bit too much, as that's bordering on it, leaving the track surface for the Porsche there. Hermé putting on mighty strong defense. A little bit of slip, it looked like, from the Porsche. Not quite being able to put it down the same way they might have hoped earlier on. A little bit of wiggle. Just keep it controlled, keep it tight through. They're barely keeping it together at the moment. They're dropping down some time, significantly in fact. Meanwhile, we've got Rios trying to chase down. Got Reed just up ahead, and throughout all the rest of the field starting to find their momentum. There are still some who are squabbling and scrapping for what positions are left. For instance, Cook is currently chasing the back of Homer and chasing with a fervent passion. We just take our quick jumps around the field. We can see who's in proximity and who's really going for it. Cumberbatch, for instance, trying to get on the back of Coulon, but didn't have the exit. In fact, lost the grip a little bit halfway through Tamburello and had to yield just a tad to keep their car in control. Looks like they have suffered a bit of front aero damage, because you can see all the scuffing and damage on that front bumper. It's almost accentuated by the black base coat. You can also see Hamby is P17, so slightly up the road and looking to make up for lost time. A bit of a wider look here as we watch the field. The front three have mostly spread themselves out. The closest is going to be Wolfslener, 0.7 of a second off a Hartnell. And with that lies a chance for the likes of Rios Are they going to be able to close in? You can see very much drawing into the wake of that McLaren just up ahead. And oh, McLaren is going to be off. That is Reed handing Rios the position on a silver platter. Not enough to get Lenatus past as well. And I think that's a perfect opportunity, a perfect shout for Rios, because now the two McLarens are going to duke it out, and they're not going to have much time for anything else. Selena trying to close the gap up ahead, but no dice. We are 10 minutes into the race distance, folks. And what a 10 minutes that we've had. We saw absolute chaos and pandemonium at the start of this race. I've got many flags. If we take a look all the way back. Now this is right back at the start of the race. You can see just the massive amount of chaos that was happening. And what it's like to be in the driver's seat for that. And the nerves must have been 110%. I'd certainly be anxious if I was in that spot. And now back to reality. Rios 2.5 seconds away from McKibben now. Damien Reed is not too happy with their P7 being taken. We'll have to keep an eye on this flight of 3, as this is certainly going to become a hot spot for racing as time goes on. Not to be outdone though, Hamby and McNair are closing to the back of Saloma and doing so fast. As McNair having a very rough race start, very rough and tumble. They'll want to reclaim. We'll be wanting to see how these three combat each other in a race situation. Now that the field is settled, very little stands in their way. We've had 3 cars now in the pit lane. Guillermo Thompson and Patrick Larson as well, following, I think, their incident. They chose to go back into the pits. Looks like McNair's going to be going for a move through Tamburello, very deep and across the curves, but has technically got it done. A very deep move. Certainly high risk, barely in control of the car. Now they've got that position that they desperately wanted. And they can start to make up some ground, because all of this has allowed Saloma to retain a large gap, and a gap that could very easily expand if not taken care of. Down the bottom as well, Goddard, Vissuri North. All in close contention all the same. Holmberg has now gone into the pits. And they're going to be taking the bottom of the order. A bit of a rough exit leaves the Porsche with an opportunity. Appeal to the left. No move being made. Looks like Goddard just had the exit speed to retain. And then also looking at the front, we see Wolfslener, after a couple of minutes of speculation, trials, tribulations, looks like they really are getting close to the back of Hartnell now. Trying it on a little bit. Seeing where they can maybe goad their opponent into a mistake. Keeping that high pressure. It could be all that it needs. All that it needs to put them under serious pressure. Meanwhile, we have Marsh, who's just dropped a position. Leonardo is now up into P9. Cutler is going to be involved in the fight themselves very soon. The time is of the essence to make this one work. quality work there from Marsh, Leonardus, Cutler. They're showing that they can race close and clean, and that's all that we want to see here. At the end of the day, as much as we push and as much as we are looking to see who's the fastest racer, we want to do so in a clean and sporting environment. There's one thing SimSeniors prides itself on. It's that it's been a welcoming space, and a space that encourages cleanliness as a core racing principle. Meanwhile, looks like we have just seen a bit of a move between these two. So if we take a bit of rewind time and see exactly what happened, replay it, run it back between Wolfslenner and Hartnell. We saw him go along side by side through Tamburello. But Bentley just going to keep the pressure high, losing the position, the pace through the curbs. With that inside hold, it's forced the yielding of Hartnell. The Lamborghini right there. But we can see them continue to trade through into Acqua Minerale now. Contact between them. Looks like a wide run there after a bit of a tap on the side for Hartnell. Wolfslenner proving himself to be the dominant force on the track right now, or at the very least the one that wants P3 more than the other. A brief incident warning as Hartnell did leave the track as a result of contact between the two, but nothing to write home about. I think that is just a little bit sensitive. A couple of other opportunities around the field. Oh, Goddard is in. Holmberg has stayed in the pits and does not look to be returning out into the track. So this is going to be down to 31 drivers. Holmberg in P32. No changes set to be made. Gotta say, it's looking like we've got a few more battles stacked up. Some nice run-ins, and for the entire field, started to find a bit of stability. We're not seeing that many. Oh, saying that though, Nick Coulin has just had an off through Tosa. I was going to be giving Hughes and Cumberbatch for free. Free? P15. Well, he's going to drop down, as the other two is going to take the spots after. Cumberbatch, though, is going to be going off of the field. Piratella not being kind to the BMW, as Coulin is going to retain, or at least retake, one of their two positions. Hughes themselves have got a bit of a clean breakaway now. And while they do have about 10 seconds between themselves and any other cars, they are leading the bronze field, and that's got to stand for something. Same goes for Hermé. They've got quite a fight going, and they've proven themselves worthy to fight up there with the tops. We do see a couple of positional trades as well, as we see two cars heading into the pit. We see Lenatus and Cumberbatch both jumping in now, and they will be taking their mandatory pit stop at this stage of the race rather than around the halfway mark. They're going for an early stop, maybe trying to undercut some of the competition. There will be a bit of pace degradation towards the end they'll have to be wary of. Offsetting compared to the field does have its advantages, but you just need to make sure that you are on top when push comes to shove and when final laps start to show. Butler and Marsh, rivals in arms, making their way around this course. Half a second between the two. Damian Reed was on the chase to Adam Rios, but Rios is pulling out a substantial gap, and 3 seconds is going to split himself and McKibben, so he might be looking to just firm his current position rather than go for anything high risk. Cumberbatch just leaving the pit lane soon. Has had to take a bit of an extended time in there. I assume that's due to damage. Right now, Cutler chasing. On the hunt for the Porsche. Putting everything into trying to just close that gap. Field is certainly looking stacked. Nobody's here to play. They're here to race. And race hard. Damian Reed has managed to close in on Rios. And we see a bit of a return to form for the Mountain Dew adorned McLaren. And oh, saying that though, bit too deep into Aqua Minerale, big rear slip. This could be an opportunity, as we see a few other cars are now going to be mingling in together. And that is going to be the BMW behind of none other than Cumberbatch. So they're a lap down, it looks like. No, but this is, remember, coming off of their pit stop, so things will equalize in due time. Field has started to separate itself out. I think it would take a bit of time to appreciate some of the paint jobs that go on some of these cars. Yes, right now, Simon E. What a paint. Gearman theme. Always give a special nod to visual design, so for those who are willing to put in the effort, it goes a long way. Very nice design from Eid and Parkinson as well. We've got a nicely built livery. It's the Ferrari looking very good in yellow. They don't always get to stop and appreciate some of the designs on some of these cars. Some visually understated, but very well crafted and produced. And then others, they're either going for just a stealth look or a little bit more elaborate, like we saw with Eid's Gearman design. Or certainly going for a very stylized look, like we see with Hamby, both last season and this one. We have Richard Cook trying to chase Austrichars down. Remember, these two are in different classes, and you're going to see that dynamic a lot between some of these battles, is that fundamentally they're on different classes. So what does it matter, these kind of battles? What it matters is it is an obstacle still. Even if it's not necessarily the runner that you want to be with. It looks like we have had an issue. That's going to be Saloma stopped off on the side of the course. Big technical issue coming in for the McLaren. They are going to be pitting in, and they have left the race course. Saloma is out. We are down to 31 cars, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunate to see. Looks like they had a major technical fault. We are down one driver since the start. We'll take a time to look around the field, as we do, being halfway in the calendar, have multiple championship fights now going on. Not just for the leads of each championship, but as we look to the likes of maybe Cutler right now. It's got Frederick Gaimont 2 points behind, and then Engdahl 3 points behind that. So good results matter just as much for those mid-back battles as they do for the front lines. Ostrichar's third in the championship, but Patrick Larson is 2 points away. And while they've already taken their pit stop and seem to look out of contention, I wouldn't count them out just yet. And of course heading into the pits at this time. We do of course see also some of our championship protagonists not racing tonight. And just in general, we don't always have the full roster. Remember, 45 participants are registered for this championship, ladies and gentlemen. 45. Or at least 45 that have raced at any given time. The field is varied and the field is stacked. Right now we have quite an interesting set of cars. And much more weighted towards the gold end of the scale than to others. Right now, we have, I believe, if we do a little bit of counting here, we have, is that 9? No, that is 11. So we have 11 gold class drivers. When you pair that up with 7 bronzes and 13 silvers, you have our current playing field. And a lot of different dynamics and battles. Thompson is in Patrick Larson's way. McNair has just come into the pits too. So we'll see where they come out. Have to see on the timings. Who is going to be where? Larson currently just trying to get past and start to make up some time, but not really getting the opportunity thus far. Not quite getting afforded to them in the way they'd hoped. We'll see where McNair comes out. As we switch to the helicam, we can see some of the cars going by. And that's going to be Thompson and Larson. And just as McNair is leaving, they're going to be coming out a bit further behind. Are they going to beat Cumberbatch? It's going to be close. It is going to be very close. Here we are peeling out now. Just going to be beaten, just slightly outclassed. Unfortunate for them. Like Simon got a bit of a fight of his own. It looked like he was briefly alongside the Porsche. Hamby now into the pit, with Rios, Hughes, Hermé all doing the same. Yeah, Hamby has got to bring their A game on this second stint. We've now crossed the halfway point of the course. And I have to congratulate Hornberg for breaking my telemetry system, because they've now been over 1,000 seconds in the pits and it's clipping out of the box. Yeah, homie, quick to get out there. Rejoins in P21. Just overtaken by Cutler on the exit. But with the stop now out of the way, this does give them some breathing room. Lenatus, though, P17. With the stop in their pocket. Massive time gain compared to the likes of Hermé. That's going to be over 15 seconds all in all. Here we've got Larson, we've got Hughes, Hamby now coming out P28. Maybe about 4.5 seconds ahead of McNair. A few other cars getting some unlikely opportunities thanks to the pit stop shuffles. North and Aid both heading into the pit. Other cars now considering what their potential strategy is to be. At the front, we have Liam Blom. We haven't checked in on him in a while, but he's for good reason, because he's 16.5 seconds away from the next closest competitor. So we haven't checked on him. There's a very fair reason behind that. Hasn't really got any on-track contention, and now is going to be leveraging that by heading into the pit lane. Is their competitor, or main competitor in Larson, going to be doing the same? We'll have to wait and see. Currently under the hammer by Wolfslenner. But no, they choose to stay out a little bit more and maybe just stick out in front position for a little bit. We've got Lindblom is going to be down the pit wall. Hartnell going to overtake as well. Damien Reed is into the pits. And more cars are going to be filing suit in just a moment's time. Liam Blom having a bit of a longer stop than most, it seems. Is there potentially an issue? Well, Peyton, Coolin, all out now. Liam Blom leaving the pits. Is going to be likely rejoining in P12. Or are they? It could just beat out Hiro. Coming on alongside. Just going to be behind when they exit. Nisbet now in the pit lane as well with some solid work. Can jump into the pit lane, a happy driver. Reed is going to be exiting in P15. And just pipping Robert Homer, you can see there in the foreground, the number 6 Porsche. Just slightly adrift. Now, most of the grid has now taken the required pit stop. This leaves a few drivers with some unexpected opportunities. Now that they can see a little bit more accurately to what the real race positioning is going to look like, they can weigh up the strategic options in full. About whether they go for a full fight or whether they choose to hang it back a bit more. Liam Blom already on the chase for a potential opponent. Going to be overtaking the Porsche usually with ease as we head into Rivarza. Start lap 20. Time is of the essence though here. Coolin Missouri now into the pits, taking that as their signal. Scary and Cutler going to fight side by side. There's going to be a brief yellow for Nisbet as they have exited the pit lane into P30. Looks like they've had more of an issue though as they've rejoined the track and they've gone through the gravel through Tamburello. Cutler and Hermé continuing their fight. Guillermo going to be waiting in the wings like a vulture to see what scraps they can scrap up. These two remain on each other. Remain in a fighting stance. Coolan now exiting the pits. Missouri doing the same. P19 and what will be P22, I believe. We are drawing in close. This is Scary Hermé. Peeking left, peeking right, seeing what their opponent does and trying to trace down what their game plan is. Not to be outdone, however, we do have Wolfslenner in a similar spot as we now head through Piratella down into Aqua Minerale. They're trying to close that gap and take the lead of the race away from Larson. Is there going to be a chance for the Bentley as time is going to be running thin? Parkinson in the pit lane. With that, only a few crucial drivers remain, primarily at the front of the grid now. The P1 through 9 and then Homer in P13 are the only drivers who have yet to pit in. Unfortunately, we still have not been able to get to the bottom of the pit indicator and its inconsistent reporting. So, to ensure the quality of the broadcast, we had it turned off just for the rest of the season. Check in with some of our other drivers. That's going to be Parkinson exiting the pit now and rejoining just behind Patrick Larson in P21. Siri behind. Well, no, that is not Siri. My mistake. That is going to be, I believe, McKibben. Gamma chasing also. Looking for P15 on the books. Wolfslenner not managing to get an attack on Johan Larson up in the lead. But we will see how time favours who. Chris Mansell into the pit lane. Final couple of transitions and changes. Once these last few head into the pits, we will see the true racing order as it was intended to stand. Liam Blom leads the leads the pit stopped order. Lenatus in second. Mansell now in the pit, but Damien Reed is in third. A lot of the top pace runners have yet to pit in, so that's something to consider. And as we check in with our leaders heading in through to Rivazza, the double left-hander now, is there going to be a change of heart? Are we going to see them after 22 laps head into the pit? Let's see what they do. No dice, no pit for our top two. Will there be any differences for the rest of the course? Doesn't quite look like it. We've seen a couple of drivers who have managed to navigate and get a bit of space for themselves though. For instance, James Payton. They have managed to get themselves quite a bit of a gap. You've got Marsh, who is 9 seconds ahead, and Ostrachards, who's 15 seconds behind. They've managed to find themselves a convenient little pocket. And they don't have to race too hard, just bring consistent laps in and bring it home, and they'll have some great points on the table. They do still have to pit, that will have to factor in. But where it currently stands, and from where we're sitting, Payton doing a good job. Same can be said for the likes of Gamma. Has pit in, and is on the back of Rios. could stand to gain a couple positions here with some strategic moves on himself and Cutler. Guillemar's final flaw, his core issue, is that he's got the pace, but he's just not converting those points when it comes to race time. Either that, or if there are points to be converted, he's getting penalised quite harshly. 13 points have been taken away from Guillemar over the course of the season. If he didn't have those, he'd be on 69 points and equal with Dave Marsh. Cook and Lenatus have come in. Cook is just exiting the pit lane now. Comes out in 15th. Lenatus going to be doing the same very shortly, as they have now exited their pit box and are just on the outward run. Wolfslander and Larson have just started lap 24 here, along with Hartnell and McKibben. Remaining to be big pushes here. Ascari has taken the spot off of Homer as we headed out of Villeneuve and into Tosa. .5 minutes on the clock, ladies and gentlemen. And we have a couple positional trades further down. Parkinson has managed to get a move on Visuri, and Hughes is going to make it a double. Porsche not quite getting the run through Villeneuve they would have liked, and that was open season for all of the Ferraris, the two Ferraris and the McLaren in that matchup. Lenatus leads the way in P20 in the lime green McLaren. And Missouri now backs up the rear. Number 27 car of Dave Marsh now going to be exiting the pit lane, I do believe. And is going to be out in P7, so only 5 cars remain. And Peyton is also coming out into P9, or net P4. All things considered, a very solid race. Robert Homer is going to be heading into the pit. And a few couple cars, a few chances being afforded to these other drivers. Yet to make a proper statement. But we're seeing our leaders really run deep into this first stint. We're almost 45 minutes in and we still have the top 5 yet to pit in. Have to wait and see what they make of it. 30 seconds split McKibben and Ostrachars though, so maybe the writing is on the wall pace-wise for some. Maybe there has to be a judgment call being made, but Ostrachars remains committed. Statement of intent and a statement of commitment. All of the top 5 now running around the 1 minute 43 mark. Only exception being Hartnell, Wolfslener and Larson, who have managed to get away with 41s. Rios is on the chase to Cutler. And as we head down into the final 2 main corners, Ravazza looking to get very close. A little bit of skittishness on the rear axle, though, is going to prevent that kind of push. Cutler is cutting in deep there, trying to break a kind of slipstream, and you can see he goes a bit back and forth across the track. Well, still within legal parameters, but just trying to disrupt the tow. Rios looking a little bit strained there as they try and keep on the back of the Aston. You can see a couple of the same tactics are going to be coming out for some of the others further down. We take a look to Mark Hughes as they've managed to get run on Parkinson heading into lap 25. They'll be side by side with the 2 Ferraris. Lenatus now out of the picture, and oh, that's a big contact between them. It's going to collect each other into the gravel. That is Tamburello claiming 2 Ferraris. I'm not really sure what happened there. Let's get replay on the helicam just to see exactly what happened. But you can see, start-finish straight there, looking like a side-by-side matchup into the first corner. Now, we do see that Hughes has the inside on Parkinson. Let's see who left the space. But it looks like Hughes just kept going to one side. And in the end, Parkinson had really nowhere to go. It would have been either that or catastrophic incident through the grass. So, really, that is anyone's game as to how that could have gone, if not how that went. Ostrachaz is into the pit. And we are going to see where they come out. We see many other cars are going to pass by. Down into P13 with more to follow. Richard Cook just going to beat them to the off. As they now exit out, it's going to be P14 for the BMW. Ascari in at P8 and leading barely on the championship rival in terms of points if this current result was to stand. Damien Reed, though, is the silver star of the show. They've got 5, almost 6 seconds on Ascari. But then looking to the front as well, 27 laps into their current stints and still running 41s in a very impressive display. That is going to be Wolfslener and Larson continuing to fight tooth and nail as we are in the final stages of this race. And really the final chances they have to get into a new set of tyres. I think we will see a splash and dash type strategy. Minimise the amount of time spent in the pits through some clever management. And see if they can pip Lindblom on the strategy side rather than the raw pace. Because the raw pace was not looking in their favour, at least early days. And this is what I love about this kind of racing. You see drivers get creative. They have to get creative in order to be their best. The strategies vary. The approaches to wheel combat change. Do you go more conservative or do you fight as hard as you can? We're seeing what these two are doing. They are taking that initial stint as far as it can go. And then are going to take a super short pit stop for a final mad rush to the line. That is a strategy that I can commend, and if it minimises your time in the pit lane, if it balances out, then I salute you. Bring the speed, bring the fire. And as many other cars are now looking to space out, Wolfslener has had a bit of an issue through Villeneuve. Takes a bit too much apex on the first corner. They're going to take a couple of tenths in a pace reduction. And are not going to be happy about it. Race is on between them all as we have the final 10 minutes rapidly approaching. McNair down in P24 has, I think, taken a bit of a positional hit as we just briefly saw the indicators of a change in position. A little bit of dirt getting kicked up as drivers are going to the edge of the course in order to try and gain any possible time. You see in the foreground, that was Lindblom. Now let's check in with our, at one point, leader of the race. We can see that Hartnell has come into the pit. And And the number 888 Nismo is now on a charge. You can see Liam Blom up into P4 now, overtaking through the pit lane. Just getting past Simon Eade, who I believe is a lap down by this point on the current leader. But looking sharp. Again, big props to the design. I think what we're seeing right now is P1 and P2 strategically coordinating to an extent, pushing each other along. But now we can see that they have broken proximity to one another. Those lap times have taken a significant drop. So I think if any time would be to head into the pits, now would be it. And they've displaced each other. Wolfslener has dropped off the pace. Last lap was a 43, 42.1 from Larson, and there you go. They're both heading into the pits now. Where are they going to come out? Let's find out and see. Is McKibben going to do the same as they go through the second left-hander of Rivarza now? Is there going to be a similar strategy coming in from McKibben? No. McKibben is going one more. They're going to be the longest stint of the race by far at this point. This is going to be 30 laps on a single stint. That is insane longevity. Question is, though, where are they going to come out time-wise relative to what was previously the race leader? Here, transmission whine. Straight cut gears, tearing through that gearbox as we go down the start-finish straight here. Where are they going to come out? They are exiting their pit boxes, but are they going to get out in time? Not quite. You can just see the silhouette of Larson as Lindblom has got out ahead. Crazily enough, look at the time difference. These two have managed to gain 10 seconds through this long strategy, this long first stint. 10 seconds. That is a very impressive strategic run. I gotta say, I tip my cap. I really do. To you two. Because to get that time gain through strategic prowess alone, that's a seriously smart move. There you go. Now everyone besides McKibben has taken a jaunt into the pits. Oh, Lindblom, 29 seconds away from the lead. Is McKibben heading into the pit? No, they stay out for one lap longer, but they don't really have anyone to work with. They're consistently lapping in the 42s, but that's not the kind of pace that we need. We're seeing a 40s from Lindblom here. And we see a couple more trades happening around the field. Hermé and Reed are swapping around, swapping left, swapping right, as we've seen Reed take quite a hit in terms of on-track pace. Hermé is now getting ahead and is going to be taking the lead of Silver. At least if he has anything to say about it there. Last lap from Lindblom, a 40.8. What will the lap be from Larson and Wolfslener? Of course, they have got the laps which are inclusive of the pit time. So after this next one, we'll be seeing the real representative pace. Well, as things stand, Larson has lost a second between himself and Lindblom since leaving the pit. So I think we might be back to a little bit of status quo. Reed is not giving up so easily. Hunting for that position. Hungry for it even. We jump a bit further down. We jump aboard the splitter of Iro. The McNair and Hughes are going to be very close to one another too. This could be a swap. He's going to be looking down the inside. A bit of nosy in there. A little bit far to be going for it, but makes the commitment regardless. shows the intent, shows the teeth as we come through here. McKibben is now in the pit lane. I repeat, McKibben now in the pit lane, folks. That is the final pit runner. And 5 minutes to go left in this race. Liam Blom's going to be firing their way past that pit lane. And McKibben has not left their individual box yet. Only just now leaving their pit box. Larson and Wolfslen are both going to be getting by just before McKibben gets a chance to go across the line. Are they going to be able to beat Hartnell? No, Hartnell's going to be coming out ahead. So P5 for the Porsche. Not to be outdone though. Still a solid run. And with that, this is your true final order, folks, with 4 minutes left to go. We've got about 3 laps left on the clock. Lap 32, Liam Blom takes the cake thus far. In another dominant display. And is looking to be pushing at the moment. Rather than play it conservative, they're trying to push. So periodically checking through the field. It looks like Cutler and Payton are going to go for a trade. Cutler, of course, trying to get closer to the likes of Gaimart, make some positions in their own relative championship. With only 30 cars left in contention. Holmberg now 2,600 seconds in the pit lane. For those who have been counting, give yourself a medal. And then at the lead, we have Liam Blom at 9 seconds adrift of Larson and 2.5 seconds adrift of Wolfslen themselves. But the front end of the grid is quite succinctly spread. We've seen a bit of an issue from Mansell, as they have dropped not 1 but 2 positions, Thompson and Larson respectively. Down into 18th for the Porsche. Making way for the Nismo and McLaren. But now we are final laps in, and I gotta say, this has been quite an interesting race. The strategic shake-ups that have been afforded as we have sat here on the course is nothing to be scoffed at. Personally, for me, that's been the biggest takeaway from this race, is you can gain a lot of time on strategy alone. And even in some cases, you can gain some time on the pace itself. Combined with a good strategy, you are nigh on unstoppable. We wait to see what times can be gained, where the battles can be lost and won, both in the pit lane and on the course. There you go, there is the call from race control. The leader is on the final lap, folks. We are coming to the end of the evening in terms of racing today. Some drivers have really shown their stuff out here tonight, regardless of win status. We've had some drivers who've really given a chance and have managed to make tonight their own in various different ways. And for me, I look to the fight in silver in particular. We've seen some jostling, some trading. We've seen Reed do very well and really sort of punch above the grade in terms of where they are relative to their championship. So I tip my cap to them alongside Linatus for a solid early run. Of course, many drivers were affected by some of the on-track shenanigans, shall we say, particularly that lap 1 mega incident. But everyone continued and they kept their heads held high. But as we head through Rivarza now, our final look in from the field. Big slide on the back corner to finish. Teasing us with the pit lane, but not quite going for it. It's going to be Lindblom taking the checkered flag and winning round 5 of the season here at SimSeniors. Seriously impressive running. Not to be outdone though, that's going to be Lawson coming in with 2nd and Wolfslener coming in with 3rd place there. Hartnell and McKibben are going to make it 4th and 5th. Then you look to the likes of the Silvers and Oscari Herme. What a run. What a round for the Silver Runner. And this is certainly going to be cementing themselves in, if not the lead, then a major contender here for the silver title. Coming across the line. Seriously impressed here. Alongside Reed, who is going to get a massive slingshot up that championship order. 3rd is going to go to Peyton for the silver. And I can't think of a better way to do it than here. But then also you have Thompson, who has seriously impressed. Kept their head down, kept it clean at times. I almost forgot that they were a bronze class runner. That's how well they were doing. Mansell seems to have had an issue. But Thompson has had none of the sort. Quality running and a great race as more drivers are going to make their way through. So in 2nd is going to be Hughes for bronze, and then Aero is going to be in 3rd. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, what a run. Unfortunately, we did lose Saloma and Homburg, but a quality set of racing we have had out here tonight. Of course, thank you all, as always, for joining us here, for being those in the chat, for being those who are willing to watch us week in, week out. We do appreciate it massively. And you will not want to miss what happens next, because as the fireworks go off in the background, we're headed to Australia next week. It's going to be a great one, but to us in the commentary box, to us in the staff team, and you in the chat, and the drivers who were out on track earlier, we thank you all. It has been amazing first half of the season. Join us for the same time next week, where we will be heading our way down under into Australia for round 6. And the championship really starting to heat up for some. Some big change-ups and a couple of shuffles. We'll see what these drivers can do. But for now, my name's been Ben Sapswood, and good night.